Welcome to Happy Hour with Cooper. I'm Brett Cooper, and I don't even, especially now after the sound issues, I'm definitely ready for Happy Hour. I'll be pouring myself a glass right away here. So this week we're exploring our Dry Riesling and our Rosé, our 2019 Rosé, which is really cool because it's Lillooet VQA. That is, all the grapes are grown in Lillooet. And then we will be talking to our winemaker, James. James is the mind behind a lot of the wines that are coming out over the next year, which is really exciting. Then we may not explore something food related to go with the rosé. I'm pretty excited to show you guys. So let's kind of get started. We had a bit of a rough start, but we're starting to get some people watching. Hi everyone. Please feel free to join in. Say where you're from. Tell me who you are, and please tell me what you're drinking. I'd love it to be Fort Berens wine, but if it's not, of course, it's okay. Please let me know what you're drinking. We want everybody to be enjoying themselves and enjoying happy hour. We'll just wait a few more seconds here, talk a little bit, and then we'll start on the Riesling. We have 9 people right now, and I'd like to make sure everybody that's going to watch is going to get to experience the full awesomeness of our Riesling, Dry Riesling. So I'll just, for me, this is exciting. We did our classic Riesling last week, which was a bit sweeter. This is our Dry Riesling. I am a Riesling nerd, just like Helene from our interviewee of last week. Hi, Paul from Regina. Thank you so much for your help getting us off the ground. Hi, Jeff from Strathmore. That's really cool. I'm also from Alberta. I'm from Edmonton. It's pretty cool to see people from my home province tuning in. That's exciting. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Dry Riesling today. Dry Riesling is maybe not something that gets as much press. Over the last 20, 30 years, Riesling was known as a sweet wine. It was German. It was full of sugar, and people tend to still come into the winery and say, "Oh, I don't like sweet wine," when I offer them Riesling. So I really, really like to explore it. This is not sweet. This is not cloying. It doesn't overwhelm your palate. It's actually very refreshing. So for me, I'm just gonna, we'll talk about how this wine smells and tastes, and we'll talk about how that compares to the rest of the world, and maybe where Riesling has come from and how it's grown. So our Dry Riesling is fairly acidic on the nose and on the palate. It's got a nice bright citrus to it. Rieslings also tend to have apple. Ours does. So the big thing is the difference for Riesling, sweet or dry, is if it is more acidic than it is sweet, it will taste drier. And Rieslings really showcase that, because you can have, if it doesn't have enough acidity, even if it has very little sugar, it will still taste fairly sweet. It may not be sweet, but it will taste sweet. So that's, and Riesling, a lot of wines fall into that, but Rieslings are a really good, example of it when you talk about wine. So when it has high acidity and low sugar, it tastes refreshing. But if it has high sugar and not enough acidity to balance it out, it can taste like flabby or just too thick on your mouth. So Rieslings do a great job of balancing that out. Even when they are super sweet, the grape just really does a good job of that. So I can't wait. This is my first sip of wine today, and I'm super excited. So our Riesling, dry Riesling, is very, like I talked about, like bright citrus, and it is. It just punches right off the gate with lots of citrus, and it has a little bit of fruitiness in the palate, so that it's not overwhelmingly dry. It still has a little bit of residual sugar in there. And I believe we're right around 5 grams of residual sugar per liter, which for wine is just generally considered pretty dry. So this is showing exactly where we want it to be, and it's doing a really good job of it. Hi, Tim. That's exciting. Tim and his team from the drinks list are actually represent our wines commercially, which is really, really cool. Cindy, you were here last week too, right? From Calgary. I believe you tuned in last week. That's exciting. Well, Cindy, the dry Riesling wasn't in the spring pack. I guess you'll just have to order it. Right. I'm super excited. Oh, hi, Sandy, as well. That's another drinks list person. That's exciting. I'm super, super happy to see that everybody's tuning in. So I would love to hear what you guys are drinking. Think Cindy, you said you're drinking a rosé, right? But I don't know what is everybody else drinking. Please tell me you're drinking. I don't want to be alone. Rosé for Paul, awesome. Well, so we'll be talking about rosé later. That's exciting. We actually will have a lot of input. That'll be great. And dry Riesling. Okay, so what do you think, Jeff? What do you think about the dry Riesling so far? Rosé's queued up. Awesome. Hi, Mother. You guys will get used to the handle Mini Ma Cooper. She will be on every single stream, and she will comment constantly because my mother is we're very, very close, and we talk all the time. So she likes to be involved, and she's pretty awesome, and she loves our wines, well, our reds, and she won't touch whites. That will be something we talk about a lot. Canned peaches and sweet pea. You know what? I definitely see that 100%. The peaches for sure. So what people tend to, I touched a little bit on this last week. What people tend to think about is that Riesling is German, but a lot of the world produces Riesling, not just Germany. BC, obviously, just for one, but there's Alsace, there's Australia. Australia does a lot of really dry Rieslings. However, their dry Rieslings do not taste like our dry Rieslings. They have a very different style. We tend to, there's a lot of citrus on, especially on our dry Riesling, the one that we're highlighting today. There's, Australian dry Rieslings tend to focus more on their minerality, and they tend to be, the word I would use is austere. They're a little bit more closer to a Sauvignon Blanc than our Riesling would be. And then, so that's Australia. Washington is putting out some really cool Rieslings that are very similar more to the German style, but with a little bit less sweetness. And then, we're actually mimicking Alsace. So Alsace is one of the world's oldest wine regions, and I absolutely love it. So what Alsace does, they don't just create bright, refreshing Rieslings, they create Rieslings that last. And that's one of the things that excited me about Fort Berens is I've tried a bunch of our Rieslings from 5 years ago even, and they last. So that's really cool to see a BC winery doing Rieslings that last. So, anybody else have trying the dry Riesling, or am I? It's just me and Jeff hanging out here in the bar. And Mom, what are you drinking? Are you drinking one of our reds? Last time you did red gold, what are you drinking now? I don't know if you have another bottle of red gold. If not, I should send you one. Okay, so we'll probably start moving on from the Riesling. I can talk about it for days, and we'll bring in our Riesling Reserve at some point, and over the next couple of weeks. Oh, hi, Mandy. Nice to see you. Yeah, so we'll do lots of little sessions on Riesling, because Riesling is probably my one of my favorite wines to drink. So you'll try the Cab Franc. The Cab Franc is fantastic, Mother. Let us know how it's drinking. And so we're going to move on to talk with our guest. Our guest tonight is James Cambridge. He is the winemaker here he started at the beginning of 2019. And hi, James. Welcome.
How you doing, Brett?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
So we'll kind of get started. I see you're already drinking a rosé, which I should.
Well, I thought you'd get a drunk on you.
Please don't get drunk on me. So let's talk about you. Like you've been around in the BC wine industry for a while. But what got you into winemaking? Why winemaking? I know you've done a few other things. So what brought you here?
Well, I guess it's a simple case of you're going down a career path that you're just maybe not very happy with, and then you pause for a moment and you sit back and you go, well, if I've got so many more years to do whatever it is I'm going to do, I would want to be doing something that I dearly loved. And I was collecting wines at the time. And I had a big chat with my dad, who was a corporate Imperial oil man. And I said, I got to change my life. I can't do this anymore. And this is what I want to do. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. So I packed up. I was living in British Columbia at the time, and I went back to Ontario and went through 3.5 years of schooling to get back to where I guess I am now, or leads me to where I am now. But it was more of I needed to change my life. So.
Well, I'm glad you did. Because
Yeah, me too.
I got to meet you and learn from you and drink wine with you, which has been a blast. So you're from BC. My next question was gonna be why BC versus, like, why did you settle in BC as a winemaker versus, Niagara, where you learned, or anywhere in the States or anywhere around the world? Why BC?
I think, for me, I love the province, and I like what the province can do, maybe on a broader scale, no difference to my Ontario cousins, but I just think on a broader scale for whites and reds, it affords more opportunity, or it's a bit more involved, I think, and so it's a little bit more interesting to play with. So I think that's what drew me back here. Just once I got out of school, I wasn't there very long. I just headed back to British Columbia, where I thought, if you're going to try and shine, this was a good place to do it.
I feel the same way. BC drew me here. The weather, the people, the wine, everything just has a perfect mix, right? It just feels like home, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Within BC, like, what drew you? Like, how did you get to Fort Berens in the first place? In 2011, and what brought you back now?
Well, I was winding up at another facility, and I had talked to Harry McWaters back in the day, and Fort Berens was looking for somebody. I was looking for something, and Harry connected the dots and introduced me to Rolf de Bruin and his wife Helene. So that was back in 2012, and then we decided to head to the coast, my wife and I, and then we got in touch with Harry again, And Rolf was, again, it was one of those fortuitous moments where, they were needing somebody, and we were needing another home, and so familiarity, and the region is beautiful, and we loved it. So that's how we got. That's, I guess, the long-winded answer of how we got started here and how we came back.
That's it sounds like a lot of right place, right time kind of just serendipitous
Absolutely. Yeah.
chips falling into place.
Yep.
That being said, tell me a little bit about the 2019 vintage overall for all the grapes, and what you're most proud of, and how the chips kind of fell for this year in winemaking.
Well, it was all going along very nicely until into October, and then sort of the wheels fell off, I guess, in terms of the weather decided it wasn't going to cooperate with us anymore. So at that point, we were just chugging along, everything was great, and then the frost hit, and obviously the leaves, there was going to be no more ripening at that point. Whatever we were going to get was whatever we were going to get. So we had a lot of people, a lot of growers, including ourselves, that were in need of picking. And so trying to keep that all balanced was, I think, one of the bigger challenges, because obviously we don't have 500 bins that we can send off to the four corners of British Columbia and say, go. We have to manage that, and I think we did a pretty good job of doing that. I think the fruit was very clean, which is always nice when you're starting from that. I guess when the bar's at that level, then it makes things a whole lot easier. So I was glad that we hit this milestone in the growing season. We're done. Okay, let's not panic. Let's make a plan and then execute our plan, and it all came together. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me, was just trying to get that all in when that sort of that weather pattern hit.
Yeah. But but now that it's all looked like it's all done and things are actually turning out really well, is that almost makes it sweeter, right? It makes the accomplishment better and the triumph.
Well, you always work very hard to do the best you can with what Mother Nature gives us, and I think there's a lot of winners in our lineup. And not knowing at that time how things are going to evolve 3-6 months down the road, I think we are very lucky and very fortunate that there's all of our wines turned out exceptionally well. There's lots of bright acidity throughout our lineup, which I think is the hallmark of British Columbia fruit. Mm-hmm. Their flavor profile, despite October, is quite pronounced. So it was a tough vintage in the end, but the rewards are what we're drinking now.
I guess no pain, no gain, right? As my mother has always said, no pain, no gain. I wanted to say, hey, Shad, nice to see you. Shad is sales rep for the drinks list from Kelowna, and pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
And then Jeff Ball wanted to say that he wanted to give you his thanks, James. He says, we just want to thank him, and they love what you've done so far. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, he didn't go back a few years. Hello.
Well, that's pretty cool. So we say hi, Jeff. James says hi. Say hi, James.
Hi, Jeff.
Okay, so we talk about like challenges and triumphs and all that stuff, like, and why you join. But what is your favorite thing that gets you going? What drives you about winemaking? When you just like every once in a while turn around and go, I can't believe I get to do this.
I think it's for me, because maybe it's part of my personality. It's just that pursuit of perfection. I want everything just to be perfect, and it's got to go a certain way for me. And so moderating all that and trying to look back and go, okay, this is what I can do with that, or not do. This is what I've got to work with, and don't, and so I love that pursuit of trying to make everything the best that it can be. It's just, and trying to manage those expectations, and like chase that, I guess, that dream that everybody wants it. Every winemaker wants people to like what they do, and I guess I'm no different in the end. But so when I get up every morning, it's the pursuit of that. Making that, I guess, perfect wine. I know that's not realistic, but it's, you got to set the bar high, and so there's a lot of things that can go sideways. And I think in the end, for me, it's like, again, it's the pursuit of that perfect bottle of wine. I think. Right?
I think being the other side of it, the guy that's always tasting and critiquing, and for me it's the same thing. Like I like to I'm always trying to better my palate, better my ability to tell how it tastes, and learn the skills that I guess I've set my eyes on. So it's always like this, you're never going to be perfect, but there's always the strive for perfection. I think that's what makes the journey. And they always say, like, it's not the end goal that matters, it's how you get there. And
well, the other thing, I mean, every day you get up is different in the wine world. It's not the same every day. And so, part of what I like to do is sort of, with cellar hands myself, is have a little tailgate session at the end of the day saying, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. And then sometimes you get that curveball, and then it's how you react. And okay, well, plan A went out the window. This is what we're going to do today. And so you got to adjust on the fly. Your brain's constantly working and constantly evaluating. It's that pursuit of, let's really make a brilliant bottle of wine.
And I have to say, personally, you're doing it.
Thank you. I really appreciate
all
that.
the time, right? How much I appreciate what you're doing, and so you're probably bored of it by now. But this, like, just to kind of like, as we're kind of segueing into the rosés, like, man, I took a sip and I couldn't spit it out. Like, I've never been a huge rosé fan. Like, I like it, but it's never been something where I just crave it on a regular basis. I'll do that with Riesling, I'll do it with Cab Franc, but your rosé, I think about it on a regular basis. Every day I think about it, whether I'm at work or not. And so I did, like, usually when I talk about the wines, I move on and I talk on my own. But I actually kind of want to get your input. Like, what did you do that was different from a normal rosé? Is there like a magic ingredient like blood, sweat, and tears that went into it? You say that it was a tough year, but what makes this rosé, I guess, magical? Why is it magical?
Well, I of all the wines, I think that a winemaker can make, from my perspective, rosés are the ones that you agonize over the most, because if it's too clear, it looks uninviting. If it's too dark, it might look like a failed red. And I think I've always sort of had a battle plan for rosés, no matter whether you're just doing a Sangay to try and make a red a little bit more intense, or just using the entire vineyard like we did this year with all 5 clones off the Fort Berens property ending up in this in the mix. But typically what I like to do is sort of set the clock, bring in everything, obviously judge what we've got at hand, and then sort of set my expectations from there. But then what I normally do is I have a window in my mind of somewhere between, let's say, 12 and 36 hours or 48 hours of skin contact. And the skin contact is obviously where we're going to pick up color. And so I check it frequently because of the, what I mentioned earlier about either being too light or too dark. And then we settled on I think it was just around 2 days, I guess, 2 days of skin contact, so just about 48 hours. But and the reason I do that is because it's sort of a subtractive procedure at that point. By the time you filter it out and yeast absorb color and things like that, you sort of have to, I guess, get a little bit on the darker side to have it end up where it's going to end up, and that's not quite knowing where that's going to be, right? So I do agonize over it, but in the end, I sort of had anything where I've been, you know what, I'm disappointed with that. And this version is quite delightful. It's got some robust fruit. It's got some acidity to it. And it's just one of those things that, you know, I don't know if it's cliche, but, you know, it'll be one of those ones where, you know, you'll have a typical Fort Berens summer, you know, if we could do what we do at our restaurant patio or any patio for that matter, it's a hot day and it's one of those drinks, you know, and a bottle of wine is absolutely refreshing on that warmer, hot summer day.
I totally agree. Like 100%. This is like I get, you know, you get that traditional like Pinot Noir rosé strawberry on the nose, and then you take a sip, and there's a creaminess to it, which is
there is a richness to it that gets, you know, and I would be worried if that was all there was to it. You know, it's got nice mid palate weight, but there is that cleansing acidity at the end, which you know, seems to be a hallmark of this vineyard, and so it makes it that refreshing when it is hot out. So it's again, it's just beyond the color spectrum and the worrying about that. It's really it's a nice wine, nice grape to, you know, play with, and I think Pinot lends itself extremely well to rosés.
I feel the same way. Well, I'll talk a little bit about, you know, how different rosés are made now. Yeah, so thank you so much, James. I really appreciate your input, and everybody else does. Jeff Ball, I don't know if you're reading the comments as we go, James, but Jeff Ball just said that he thinks it's the best 2019 rosé he's had so far.
Well, I appreciate Jeff's input. You know, it's unfortunate, you know, that we're in this climate at this point in time. But you know, what really makes me happy, I guess, is the support that we're getting from outside the winery. You know, people can't be here, we can't congregate like we would have done last year. So I want to thank everybody for their support.
I second that. I want to thank them as well. So I want to thank you, James, for everything you're doing and everything you've done, and I really appreciate you. So, and I appreciate the wines that you've put in my belly. So thank you so much, James. We'll see you later, and we'll move on.
Have a good night, everybody. Take care. Be safe.
Okay, so James just talked to, you know, quite a bit about how rosé is made, and we do Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir really does lend towards a you know, strong strawberry on it. So if you guys are noticing strawberry, I mentioned cream. Rosés can have cranberry, they can have red apple. Because they are still a red. It's just reduced skin contact, so they tend to definitely towards red fruit more than anything else. One thing that you won't see on this one, and not nearly as much as like a French rosé. French rosés have grapefruit. This has a little bit less grapefruit, but you know, there still is some. But this has strawberry and cranberry, which is really, really pretty cool. Rosé in general, like Pinot Noir rosé, you know, it's not as common. You see it in New Zealand, you see it a little bit in Canada. It's getting more and more common because of that luxurious feel. In general, when Pinot Noir is used in a white or a rosé, it's used in champagne or sparkling wines. It's cool to see it being used in still wines more. Is anybody other than Jeff? Jeff, I so appreciate you. You're so great. I love that you're giving notes. Does anybody else have notes? There's drinks list people who know what the notes are supposed to be, guys. And Mother, you will be getting a case of wine soon. I'll send it your way. You'll get some rosé in it. I mean, we should have some summer stuff to have on the patio. Um, yeah, so that's rosé. The rosé is like, it's just, mm, it's definitely not been a popular thing. Like the last 10, 15 years, rosé was sweet rosé. It was white Zinfandel from the States. The last couple of years, we're seeing rosés show up, dry rosés, luscious, beautiful, bright, refreshing rosés um, show up on the market. Provence, which is, in France, is one of the world's biggest rosé producers. They've been really pushing it, and as they push it, the Canadian wine has really followed through. I come from a fairly, a market in Alberta where I've seen a lot of wine show and had access to a lot of wine, and it's been really cool to see this rosé. Having this rosé here has really made it fun, fun to work with, and it's just a bright, vibrant thing. So we're going to do something fun with it today. The rosé is great on its own. I could drink it for days, but you know, what's wine without a little food? So I have it's not a big, complicated dish that we're going to do today that I'm going to do, and we'll post the recipe for this after we're done. I'll just get my stuff here. I have a sharp knife, so bear with me. I don't want to slice myself. We're going to do so. Every year, my family raves. I make something called caprese salad, which is bocconcini, tomatoes, and basil with a bit of a dressing. So, but I know that salad is not always very approachable. You need a fork. So I like to make finger food. I'm a big finger food guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of little crostinis, bite-sized bocconcini crostinis. So what you need, you can cheat like I'm doing. You can buy pre-made, pre-baked crostinis from baguettes at the grocery store, or you can buy a baguette and bake it off if you want to be a little bit more, homemade idea. So they look like this, and just perfect little bite-sized uh, slices of baguette. So they're just the perfect delivery device. Next thing you need, I like to do Roma tomatoes. Roma tomatoes being almost the exact same size and circumference as the crostinis. They stack really well. The next thing is bocconcini. So what I got was whole bocconcinis. It's 200 grams in a container. It comes in liquid. No, the liquid's not bad. It's actually there to keep the cheese fresh. So they look like this. So I like to use a whole container. It's not really that much. It's only 200 grams of cheese. So it tends to go really fast. The next thing will be balsamic vinegar. Today I'm just using like store-bought balsamic vinegar. One of the things I do like to find when I can, I couldn't find it, was like pre-reduced, so it's thicker. Pre-reduced balsamic vinegar, because then it's almost like a bit of a vinegar syrup. It just glazes better and looks better. But this will do the trick. And then I use extra virgin olive oil, EVOO for short, as coined by Rachel Ray. I used to watch her every day after school. That's how I started loving cooking. When I was in 2000s, I'm old. So that's kind of it, and then we do basil. So we do fresh basil. At this time of year, it's kind of hard to find. You can use sage, but the traditional caprese style salad is with basil. This is a pretty simple dish. You I've pre-sliced some tomatoes and cheese, but I do want to show how to slice, just especially with the bocconcini, because it's pretty like squishy and rubbery and it's easy to cut yourself. So one of the things that I learned a long time ago when I was in school is something called a claw. So I don't know if people can see, but when you hold your cheese or your small thing with your knife, you want your fingers to be kind of like, you know, clawed in, so that when you put the knife on the cheese, your knuckle is against the flat of the blade, and you just know you never lift the blade over the knuckle. If you do, you'll cut your knuckle off, or you'll cut your knuckle. But you shouldn't do that, and as long as you keep the blade, the tip, the blade of the sharp part of the blade, as I stumble, below the knuckle, you'll never cut yourself because you've got a built-in guard in your hand, which is really cool. So it is like, it's hard to cut bocconcini straight. So don't feel bad if it's not a perfect flat sphere. As long as it kind of looks okay, it's okay. Try and keep it about the same thickness as the crostinis. We want it all to be kind of balanced. So I slice just like that. Um, just one smooth movement down, pressure back. Don't be afraid of it. And as long as you're using your claw method, your knuckles will be fine. Tomatoes the same thing. Tomato's easy though. Tomato is firm, so it doesn't fight back. It just lets you cut right through it. And tomato, you can do the tomato a little thinner if you want. It depends on who's eating it. If you like tomato, if you don't. But the key is it needs to be a firm, fresh tomato. It can't be soft. It can't be too juicy, or you're just gonna get a soggy mess. Something really important when you're doing like little hors d'oeuvres like this, they may sit on a tray for a while. So you want to make it so that it doesn't get worse with time. So I do. It's more than just being a recipe. I do kind of pay more attention to what order I put things on. So we start off with a crostini, and then a tomato. So then I'm using just regular salt in a dish. At home I have a salt grinder, and it's just a pinch on the tomato. I'm making one just to show you guys, and then I'll make maybe a tray here. But you pinch a little bit of salt, and then I use a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Now, a lot of people maybe at home will have a little spout. That's right, I did teach her. I came home from school and she cut the tip of her finger off and I lost my mind. And she's done it more than once. So as I show you, it's just a little bit of olive oil, just enough to coat the tomato, and it actually looks so nice. Salt first, then olive oil. Then olive oil will kind of spread the salt around. You don't want salt to all be in one place. Oh, that's the vinegar. I need the pepper. I like to do a little crack. So this is a normal pepper grinder. Just a little crack, just like a quarter turn of pepper. Then we're going to put our leaf of basil. This is about the size you want, maybe a little bit smaller. Basil has quite a potent flavor. So you put your basil down. Then we're going to move to our cheese. Just one little slice of cheese. We're going to top with a little bit more salt and one more grind of pepper. The reason why we season twice, put the salt and pepper twice, is so that it's even throughout the bite, so you don't get it in one place or it doesn't taste like weird if there's thicknesses that are too much. And then we end it with one of my favorite things. I cook with this all the time is balsamic vinegar. So many different things you can do with it. So you can use, the way I do it is I put my finger, for olive oil and for balsamic vinegar, I put my finger on the top, so you need clean hands. And it allows you to control the flow. So you see a little dribble there, and just goes on top. This is about as much as you want. You don't want too much. This maybe even a little bit more. I'll do another one that's a little bit less balsamic vinegar, so you see what it looks like. But that's turns just into like a perfect bite. I have a little tray here that I can put them on because I am prepared. So that's that. That's kind of my caprese salad. Now I do this for family dinners without the crostinis, but when I'm doing like a backyard party, when I'm doing things for friends, this is something that I can put together really quickly. And the only part that I don't do until right before I'm serving is the balsamic vinegar. So as long as you don't put the vinegar on it, you can put it in the fridge, you can make your stacks, and you just add your vinegar at the end. And it's just something super easy. We're still talking about my mom cutting her fingers off. So why I love this for our rosé. It's a creamy, fatty cheese. And it just goes so well, and even with the acidity of the balsamic vinegar, it's a sweeter acidity. It just goes so well with that crisp strawberry and high acid of the rosé that they're just a backyard pairing waiting to happen. So I like them both on their own. I think they're better together. It's one of the things that will work really well for you for easy things. There's lots of things you can pair with this rosé. I think we talk about lobster, among other things. But I think, sometimes it's just you don't want to cook. And if you can just use a cutting board and a knife and a plate to make your food, I think that's the best way to do it. So you can do a 6-course meal that doesn't taste as good as some cool little appetizers with some wine. So we'll finish with that. That's our food. We're going to try dishes like this over the next couple of weeks. We'll keep going forward with that, food pairing with wines. Next week, we're going to be exploring our Camel's White 2019, and then we will start to do reds. We'll do our PTG. So PTG 2018, it was an experiment last year, and it's something that we're still pretty intrigued by. It's something a bit different. It's a French style wine that we tried, and I have a pretty cool summer sangria recipe to make with it, so we'll go over that. And we're going to interview our vineyard manager, Andrew. We did the winemaker. Now we're going to talk about the guy who organizes growing the grapes. And it's actually harder than you may think. So that's that. That's kind of our whole hour, guys. Not just paying attention to this, not just tuning in next Friday at 5. Also, please pay attention to your inboxes and your emails, as we will be having some really cool, let's just say promotions and other things coming down the pipeline as we go forward with the new normal that we're living in. Your last bottle, Mother? Oh God, I guess I'm going to the post office right away here. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. I hope you had a blast, just as I did. I did not drink enough wine. That's fine. I'll continue. And here's to next week, and here's to Fort Berens, and happy hour with Cooper.